everyone. I think again, this is again something I'm doing the first time, and I put a lot of thought into it late last night, and I've changed up quite a bit, and I'm excited to see how you guys are gonna react to it. So good morning and welcome to the effective communication session part two, because this particular session is all about the art of listening and comprehending what you listen to, right? And you already know me. My name is Aarti Venkatesh. I am here because I love communicating and I pretty much made a career out of it. I am a social media strategist. I am a resume expert, and I'm a writer at large who's been helping brands, creators, and people communicate effectively for about 5 odd years now. In case you want to stay connected with me, post the session, I'm dropping my links as usual to the chat box for those of you who are interested. Um, that said, let us get started without any further delay. Okay, so today we're going to be looking at three key things. Okay, the first is about active listening. We're going to go into Herculean detail about active listening and how it can help you at the workplace. Then we're going to understand jargons at the workplace. We're going to understand how you can make impactful presentations to your leadership. Okay, is that good enough? Shall we get started? Are you all ready? Come on, I want to hear it. Yes, I want to hear it. This is
Yes.
an
Yes,
effective
ma'am, we are very
communication.
much
Yes,
ready.
Aarti.
Yes, I love that smile
Yes.
and that energy, Kushbu and everybody else. I can see Kavita has also joined in. Hi, good morning. Okay,
Good morning.
this
Yeah.
is awesome. Let's get started. Okay, firstly, active listening. Okay, listening is a great skill. It builds trust. It encourages problem solving, but it takes practice. It's more complicated than we all might think. Most people don't even think about it in the first place, right? It's second nature for us to just listen to what people are saying, but we're probably just hearing them. We're not probably listening. There is a difference between hearing something and listening to something, right? Good listening enables people to tell their story confidently without any you know uh, hurdle, right? um Okay, so I want to just begin this session with a very, very impactful quote on listening that I really, really happen to like. So this says that to say that a person feels listened to means a lot more than their ideas getting heard. It's a sign of respect. It makes people feel valued. If you track back and try to understand what kind of situations made you feel so angry or so let down or so disappointed, it always tracks back to someone not listening to you, them not hearing you out completely. Interruptions, it could be someone simply just being in their own world, wandering off to some other world, not paying attention to you. It could be anything, right? And this is a very, very beautiful quote by Deborah Tannen, and she's an author. She's a professor of linguistics, and I think this quote is very deeply meaningful, and it's really going to help us understand better in this particular session. Okay, now since the time a child is born, he or she is taught how to read, how to write, how to speak, but nobody teaches a child how to listen, and that's a very, very sad thing. In developing listening skills, we're also better able to own our ability, not OWN own, HONE hone. It's pronounced as own, but the spelling is hone, HONE, meaning to enhance, right? Enhance your ability for deep focus, which is helpful in many other areas of life beyond the work. So by the end of this part, I want you all to evaluate the type of listener you are. But before that, I need you all to stay on mute and not interrupt the class. And also keep your video on and not off. Okay? 1 second. Yes. Um, yes. Somebody who has their video on. So I have human connection with this world. Right. Mm, mm. Oh God, I'm so sorry. Something's just funny with my laptop. Okay, I think we more or less. Are you still able to see my screen, you guys?
Yes.
Completely. Okay, all right. Okay, so we're gonna learn about different types of listeners, okay? And by the end of this, I want you all to evaluate the kind of listener you are and tell me what type you are. Okay, you have to be honest and identify where you might have some room for improvement. Put this in the comment section by the end of this session. I mean, end of this particular section. Okay. Um, firstly, um, passive listening. Okay, guys, please stay on mute. I just tried to mute everybody. Someone's just unmuting themselves. Please don't do that. Okay. Passive listening. A passive listener is pretty much present in body only. Their mind is wandering. They hear a speaker's main points, but very little information gets through otherwise, right? They know to nod along, they know to say the right words so nobody else catches them not paying attention, right? They know to nod along, they say the right words, and they aren't entirely aware, so nobody else is entirely aware of their lack of attention. The thing about passive listening is that it prevents listeners and speakers from truly connecting with one another, and it makes for a very one-sided conversation mostly. Although it is the most common form of listening, we use it so often, right? During dull meetings, during boring conversations, when we're multitasking. Um, with people we don't really like, or even conversation with our loved ones, when we're distracted or stressed about something else, we tend to lean towards passive listening. Selective listening is an interesting type of listening. Like selective listeners seem to filter what they hear through their own worldview. Okay. So they only hear what they want to hear or expect to hear. They lean into their own beliefs. For instance, um, for example, imagine you took a test, okay, and for let's just say you after the last communication class, I gave you a little activity to do at home, and you did it, you submitted it, I looked at it, you think you did really well, okay, and I'm starting by saying, hey, great job on that, but okay, and I'm giving you more information on where you can improve. If you're a selective listener, you're fixated on the fact that I told you you did a good job, and you're forgetting what I'm saying, or rather not paying attention to what I'm saying next, right? So they only hear what they want to hear. They lean into their own beliefs, their thoughts and feelings to the point they no longer hear viewpoints that are misaligned to their own confirmation bias. This means even when a speaker conveys a message that contradicts with these biases, the selective listener manages to twist and turn that message into to fit their subconscious needs, right? When a listener is so ingrained in their beliefs, they are unable to hear messages that counter them. Their social and emotional progress in life can become severely stunted when they are a selective listener. Third, attentive listener. An attentive listener attentively holds on to the speaker's every single word. Attentive listeners are getting it all and they are also remembering it. However, just because an attentive listener is able to repeat to you what you said, that doesn't mean they truly understood it. For example, when I was in college or school, right, when my professor was taking a class, I was extraordinarily good at note making. Okay. I wouldn't miss a word she said or any professor said. Okay, I would note everything down in my own like way, either with short forms or whatever. I would take everything down. Am I understanding everything? Not at all. I'm just taking those notes. That is attentive listening, right? Um, an attentive listener focuses primarily on the words being spoken and takes them at face value. They may struggle to see the underlying meaning of individual words or to pick up on emotions and the minute details or the expressions or the body language that differentiate, a compliment from an insult, for example. Like, some people give you um, a real diss or an insult that is, dressed up as a compliment. Oh, oh, really? Oh, for sure. I'm sure you were so busy this morning, right? That means I'm being sarcastic. I'm telling you, of course, I know you weren't doing anything and you're just totally coming and lying to my face. But if you ignore my body language or my tone, you are missing the underlying meaning that I'm actually like being sarcastic. You're only, being an attentive listener, you're just understanding that, okay, this lady has just agreed to what I just said, right? Um, Moving on, an empathetic listener. Uh, a, Empathetic listeners are the best. Okay, they are the most effective listeners. Not only is an empathetic listener actively engaging with the individual words and messages, which the attentive listeners don't do, they're also actively paying attention to the emotions behind those words and messages. For example, your partner comes home, uh, looks very stressed. You go and ask them, "Is everything okay?" All right, and they say, "Yeah, yeah, it's fine. Everything's fine. Just give me some time." Right? If you are an empathetic listener, you understand just with their body language, just with the way they are behaving, that something's not right. Right? You're reading into the underlying emotion behind it. These listeners can put themselves in another person's shoes to understand their perspective, which is the basic, you know, uh, the base of communication lies in understanding that people look at things differently, and you placing yourself on somebody else's shoes will help you communicate better, right? Especially at the workplace. Fifth, active listening. An active listener is just an active participant in a conversation and in a message. An active listener is an effective listener because they not only thoroughly listen to what's being communicated, they engage with that message too. You're not just like an empathetic listener, you're understanding, you are taking everything in, you're reading between the lines, you're considering somebody's body language, you're considering tone, and how that affects the message, etc. But you're also comprehending it and responding to it. You're engaging it, you're making it a conversation. That is active listening. They ask questions and they offer input and insight. They stay on topic. They use body language that shows that they're receptive to the speaker's words. Whether they agree with them or not, they are present, right? As much as this session is specifically about active listening, being an active and empathetic listener is the best combination to exercise at a workplace, right? Being an active listener is also kind of an emotionless process sometimes. So being a combination of an active and empathetic listener will definitely help you out at the workplace in very many situations, especially those that are very tricky and difficult. It would make things easier for you if you're actively and empathetically listening. Okay. Now move on to the chat box and tell me what kind of listener you are at home and what kind of listener you are at the workplace. Okay. Very, very quickly. Come on. Okay. Lokeshwari, you're an attentive listener. Uh, okay. Asta says she's empathetic at home, selective at work. That's a very, very honest answer. I absolutely appreciate it, Asta. Um, Akila is also empathetic at home and selective at work. Gitanjali says if it's interesting, then an active listener, otherwise a selective listener. That's also pretty honest. Attentive and empathetic. I can hear some noise that is breaking up when Aarti is speaking. No noise when she's silent. Do you have this issue? Does anyone else have this issue?
Aarti, hi,
No.
Geeta here.
Hi, Geeta.
Hi, I can hear you well sometimes, but there's a little bit of like
Oh,
tuck
I
tuck
don't
tuck
know
sound
why.
along with your voice. I'm not sure what that is. I'm on my mobile data because we have a Wi-Fi disruption at home here.
Okay,
Tried
okay.
turning my camera off also. I didn't seem to make any difference. So yeah, somebody else
Okay.
is also getting this. Is your mic very close to you, Aarti?
No, my mic is already down here. But should I keep it like this? Does this work? Is this better when I'm speaking?
Yeah, like keys, like you're typing your keys, right, as you speak, that kind of a sound.
My hands up, not typing anything. Okay, I'll just keep it like
Much
this
better
and
now, but I'll turn my
yeah,
camera off so I can hear you better. Hope that's fine.
absolutely. No, 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 no problem at all. Um, but I want to see more faces, you guys. I'm removing this one. There. Okay, what else? Vaidehi also says she's empathetic at home and attentive at work. Most of the times empathetic, sometimes passive and active too. Paishwini is also very, very honest, which I like. Um, who else? Who else? Okay, Rinku is an active listener. Great, Rinku. I'm going to ask you many more questions and you're going to help me with those answers, okay? All right. Okay. Okay. Great. Okay. Rinku's also ready. She says, yes, I'm ready for it. And Kavita says she is sometimes passive at home, but most of the time empathetic and active. At work, attentive and active. Okay. All right. All right. Good. Good. Great. That's a great place to begin. Now, let me pick somebody to answer this question for me. Hi, Payaswini.
Hi, Aarti.
Good morning.
Good
We're
morning.
talking after a week. How are you doing? I hope things
I'm
are good.
fine. Thank you so much. How are you doing?
I am doing very, very well. Um, at least I can pretend to say that this is a Monday morning. I'm not doing too well. But how, okay, so can you tell me when you're talking to something, right? How do you know if someone's truly listening to you?
Mainly,
I'm going to note
when
this
you
down,
look at
okay?
their eyes, right? So for me,
Mm-hmm.
first, through eyes, I get to know that they are listening me 100% or not, or their thoughts are,
Okay.
they're around some other thoughts.
Okay. Eye contact.
Eye contact. And
Okay.
sometimes
Okay.
body language in the sense, or any actions they do, right? Or
Okay. Can you specific? I need specifics. Can you give me specifics?
Yeah, just like that, they nod their head, right? But I can make out when they lift their eyes up or sideways and all. uh
Okay.
that sound. So that
Okay.
and all
Hmm.
gives me the
Okay.
what do you call,
All right.
impression that they are just listening
They
to
are
me,
actually listening.
passive. Yeah.
Okay. Okay. What is it for you, Shubha?
Yeah, like Payaswini said,
No, I need new points, not what Payashvini said.
okay, I also have the same points actually. The way they
Okay.
move their eyes and their body language, be it
Okay. Then
tapping
speak.
their feet or
Tapping their feet.
something like that, or
When someone's
doing.
tapping their feet, you think they're listening to you.
No, no, they're not.
No, no. But the question is about how do you know when someone's listening to you?
Oh, sorry, I got it wrong.
Okay. No, no, no. It's okay.
Like
Uh,
when they make the eye contact properly, and
okay.
when you are attentively listening or you are empathizing with the speaker, you generally when they express something, you nod your head,
Nod.
yeah,
Okay.
acknowledge.
Okay.
That's how I
Okay.
know that the other person is.
Got it. Uh, Anybody else with a different answer other than eye contact, hms and acknowledgements and nods? Anybody else?
Maybe ask questions in between.
Asking questions in between. Okay.
No. Just for fun.
Okay.
But yeah, all the points complete.
Okay. What else?
They are not fidgeting or using their mobile or checking messages in between.
Okay. Not distracted.
Yes, not
Yeah,
distracted.
are they paying attention to whatever we say and also to our body language also?
Okay. Okay. Any other new answer or shall we
Response.
close it at this?
Response to the questions that we ask.
Being responsive. Okay. Okay. Great answer, by the way, whoever gave it. What else? What else? That's all? Okay. Now let's change that up a bit. What makes you think, what gives you the impression that they're not listening at all?
If they're constantly
Yes,
checking
Gitanjali.
messages or
They are not listening at all if they are not at all responding to what you are saying. They
Okay.
are looking at you, but their
Mhm.
thought process is going somewhere else.
Okay. They're
And
not
you
responsive.
have to insist on bringing their thought
Back to
process
this world.
back to the conversation.
Okay.
What
No,
I do
give me
is I just
specifics like,
ask.
no. See, I want specifics such as, what makes you feel like someone's not listening to you. Like, for instance, when I'm talking, especially when I'm angry and I'm talking to my fiance and he's not looking at me, I get very angry. You can't even so much as look at me when I'm talking is something that's a turn off for me. And I think he's not listening. So, like that, pinpoint and tell me what makes you feel like somebody is not listening to
Like somebody is good at multitasking and
you.
they'll say that, okay, I'm listening, my ears are open, I'm doing this
Okay.
also, I'm listening to you also.
Okay.
Then that is what is annoying.
Everyone, beware if you're multitasking and when Gitanjali is talking, it's over for you all. Okay. What else? What else? What else? I
if
need
somebody
specifics.
starts
Okay. Don't give me
answering,
generic answers.
if somebody starts answering some other person in between your conversation
Okay.
or
When
in,
they're having parallel conversations.
Yes.
exactly.
Parallel conversations. Okay.
Also
Not any
answering
particular
only
emotion.
by okay, like responding in terms of okay, fine, okay,
Okay. Okay. When you're expecting longer answers and they give short answers.
yeah, just
Okay. Sounds when you're expecting answers.
yeah.
Okay. Okay. What else?
Making irrelevant statements.
Irrelevant statements. Okay. Good. What else? That's it for now? Yeah. Okay. We have about 5 points. Let's revisit this in a while. I'm just putting this in the group chat too. Oh, I think I missed putting the last one. Let me see if I can get it back. Right. And this is what you guys said about someone listening. Okay. Okay. Yes, Aarti, you have an answer as much, sorry, question as much as you have to say my own name. Yes, yes. Hi.
Hi, very good morning, Aarti.
Good morning.
Yeah, so I can make out that someone is not listening to me through their body language.
Okay. What specifically?
Um, Specifically, like like you will not listen to something whenever you're not interested. So
Correct.
through their body language, like maybe like someone said, they are not maintaining eye contact, and they'll be looking for something else which is of their interest. So through that, I can make out that someone is not listening to me.
Okay. Got it. Thank you. Thank you. All right. So moving on, you guys. Blocks to effective listening. Before let's do a top-down approach again. Let's first understand what not to do or what stops you from being an active listener. So you know what not to do, and then we can get into the details of what you can do to be an active listener. Okay. First thing, right? Intrusion. Being a know-it-all, trying to impress or influence, trying to, constantly when someone's speaking, especially at work, right? Do you remember the 3-second rule I told you in the last class? Count to three before you respond. Let them finish. It's very disrespectful, more than derailing. It is very, very disrespectful to talk over somebody. Always put up your hand when you're recognized, then speak if it's of utmost importance that you put your point across at that very moment. Please put up your hand, let them recognize you, and then go ahead and say it. Being intrusive, trying to impress or influence can be counterproductive when somebody is communicating, especially at a more formal setup, such as someone else is presenting, your boss is briefing you about some new project, all of this, right? Hear them out fully, keep questions for the end. Okay. Making assumptions throughout the conversation, most of the things, what leads to intrusions is that you make assumptions, you don't let them complete, you don't even know if they're going to probably cover that in the coming sentences that they might talk, right? Making assumptions is going to push you into intrusions. Zoning out, like many of you said, you're physically here, you are trying to be a passive, I mean, you're not trying to be, you end up being a passive listener. You're physically present, but mentally you're worried about something else, some issue at home, some other 500 tasks that you have to complete, whatever it is, right? Zoning out, or simply maybe some meetings are just so useless. They could have been a single sentence email, and still they put up a 45-minute meeting for it, and you're so annoyed. It's useless, right? You just can't get over the fact that it's useless and it's boring. So you're spacing out. It happens. It happens many times. It's about how you can bring yourself to not zone out, right? Zoning out is one of the biggest blocks to listening actively or effectively. Establishing judgment and criticism, right? Other distractions too, internal and external distractions. One is you can be consumed by thoughts. Second could be noise that is, again, internal or external. This could be your notifications, your texts, your calls, anything, any beeping sound, the air conditioner even sometimes might distract you from listening to somebody, right? Uh, Establishing judgment or criticism, right? You don't, do you always have to establish judgment or criticism through words? Yeah, Payaswini says no. Bye.
It's not required to, always to be judgmental or criticize
How would
someone
you know
when they
someone's
speak.
judgmental when they're not speaking?
Sorry, I didn't get you.
How would you know if someone's being critical or judgmental of what you're saying when they're not even speaking? They're just listening to you. They're just
Suddenly
there.
they stop my conversation and they just end up with one statement
No, see,
saying
that's
that.
again verbal, right? I'm
No,
verbally
facial
telling you,
expression.
Payaswini, stop. What you're saying does not make sense. Then that sounds judgmental because I'm saying it out loud. When I'm not
Facial
talking,
expression.
how do you know I'm judging you? Yes, Kavita, you have something to say.
Facial
Expressions.
expression.
Facial expressions.
You know,
Right.
like that kind of.
Of course. Yeah. And then you're rolling your eyes. You
Yeah,
remember?
rolling your eyes.
Yeah.
Uh,
You remember
uh,
kinesics that we spoke about
Some
in the last class,
vague
yeah.
responses.
right? Rolling your eyes, huffing, puffing,
Uh.
sitting like that, and just doing
Then you go
this,
like,
looking
ho
at your.
gaya,
One of
kind
the
of.
biggest triggers for a lot of people is when someone's looking at their watch
Their
or
watch,
checking their
I
phone
swear.
for time. It's extraordinarily disrespectful.
Yes.
It's like you telling me that, I don't care. I don't give a damn about what you're saying. I think it's a waste of my time.
And
That's how sensitive
you're
I am.
wasting
That's
my
how I
time.
think.
Finish it.
Exactly. So those are a few blocks to listening actively. Second is, of course, the penultimate one is, of course, being restless, nervous, or vulnerable somehow. Right? Again, with your body language, you're constantly tapping your feet. You're using a pen. You're doing this. You're rocking your chair back and forth like you have Parkinson's or something, which is a very traumatic experience for me because my grandma had Parkinson's. It's just a really sad thing. But I hate it when people do that. Some people, when they're trying to focus, also they do this. Right? But it is very distracting for the speaker. Now, the thing about all these blocks that we just discussed is that they lead to resistance or annoyance with the speaker, leading to leading them to feel very demotivated or put off. Simply that. Okay, if this is someone who is hierarchically lower than you, then they feel demotivated. If they are hierarchically equal or above you, they just get irritated. It leads to annoyance, and it leads to, bad blood between the two of you. Okay, moving on. Inactive listening habits that you must avoid. You must avoid being a faker where your mind is elsewhere but you're pretending to passively listen. Nobody catches you. Being the interrupter, quick cut in and cut out. You constantly try to interrupt and judge. Being an attention seeker, right? Stealing the focus at all times, either by moving around, either by coughing, hissing repeatedly, not naturally, but you know, uh, trying to constantly put your hand up and include the speaker by giving your 2 cents. That is also an attention-seeking behavior, right? Being looking for a mistake, looking for an argument to dismiss what they're saying. Being an advice giver, right? Can although you might have great advice, at when it doesn't come at the right place in the right time, it might be a very huge, it could be very off-putting for your speaker. So try to not do that. Now, um, can someone describe an active listener, who an active listener is according to you, very, very quickly? Unmute and speak. What describes an active listener?
Can I ask you? Why did you do
Yes, yes, please go on.
So for me, an active listener would be like the facial expressions. For me, it's person like nodding their head, or it's not like continuously nodding. Sometimes unnecessarily, there was needed actually. Like once people are
Got
understand,
it.
it's like that response to that. Okay, I don't understand what the sentence means from you,
Got
and
it. Got it.
also for me, the facial expressions and the calmness that person is exhibiting. Like whenever
How
I
calm
say
they are and
something,
they're not like being very
yeah,
okay. Got it.
something like hurry or something, no? They're just
Got
having some, even though it's for 2 minutes talk, yeah. They just listen and they give it okay. So this is what
got it. Got it. Great. So now moving on to what is active listening. Active listening is when you not only hear what somebody is saying, but you also attune to their thoughts and feelings, right? You pick up on the non-verbal cues that they're giving you out as well. And it turns into a conversation, an active, non-competitive, two-way interaction. That is what active listening is. Throw in some empathy in there, you're golden at the workplace, right? So now, how do you actively communicate, or how do you actively listen first before you communicate, right? There are three key elements to active listening. Sorry, there is an error in the slide. It says effective communication, but it is active listening. Right, the first thing is cognitive, right? Paying attention to all the information, both implicit and explicit, that you're receiving from this other person, comprehending comprehending that information and integrating that information in your emotions and your behavior. Now, uh, the emotional component is that you stay calm, compassionate during the conversation. Like, I think who spoke just now, why he just mentioned about how this person needs to be calm and not in a hurry, right? So you're being calm, you're being compassionate, you're being thoughtful during the conversation, including managing your own emotional reactions. Like I said, there are going to be one too many of those, meetings that could have been a one-line email that are going to really bore you to death, right? How you manage those reactions that are, of annoyance and boredom that you might experience is the emotional component of active listening. The most important behavioral component of active listening is all about conveying your interest and comprehension of what you've understood, basically, verbally and non-verbally. Okay, let's look at all of that in detail. Okay, the first step to listening actively is through paying attention and being completely present or aware, doing away with all distractions, right? How do you do this? So doing this is one part, okay? Sometimes I just have a resting bitch face, man. I can't help it. I would just be like this. I wouldn't feel like responding, but I'm completely listening to you. but you don't feel heard, right? If I'm just sitting there like a statue, you wouldn't feel heard. How do you communicate, or rather, how do you convey the fact that you're actively listening? You can use the solar method. Solar is an abbreviation. S stands for squarely facing the speaker. When I'm, especially when I'm teaching an in-person class, right? I'm looking at you and teaching. If the students, I used to teach at Christ University, my alma mater, okay? And I would hate it if one of these people just turn around and like they're just sitting somewhere else, or they're just putting their head down and looking at the side of the wall instead of at me, right? The first thing that conveys to your speaker that you're listening to them is you stand or you sit in a way where you face that person straight on, right? Sit squarely face the speaker. O is for open posture. Make sure you keep, I mean, this is more of a subtle, subconscious thing, but make sure you keep your arms and legs uncrossed, like you're sitting like this, and or you have your leg one over the other like that. It again, like, non-invasively conveys that you are probably closed off to other opinions, right? Try to have an open posture. That would really convey to your speaker that you're open-minded as well, to a certain extent. Research suggests this. I'm not making this up. Um, Third is lean in. Leaning towards the person makes them feel like you're actually interested in the conversation, right? And what they have to say. It indicates your interest. E is for eye contact. Using eye contact means that you're trying to actually imbibe what someone is saying. So even when even when you're zoning out in one of those boring meetings, at least try to make eye contact, zone out of their face. Okay, they wouldn't know. The last, or rather the fifth, is relax, right? Make sure that you act naturally. If you try to practice these gestures without sincerity, you will come across as someone having no interest in the sender or any of the messages he or she is trying to give. Okay, of course, many of these practices are based on cultural, innuendos as well, and those do play a very important role. But that is, content for a different session. So the solar method can be like your basic to understand how to act, or rather how to present yourself when you're actively listening. Okay. Now, moving on, let's go into each of these other components. Okay, firstly, you only see behavioral component here. You don't see the emotional component. The emotion, because there's not much, right? It's much. It is quite straightforward. As far as the emotional component is concerned, I need you to manage any emotional reactions such as boredom or annoyance that might crop up while listening, and don't let it show behavior. Okay, how you do that is what this particular slide is about. So there are verbal and non-verbal parts to your behavior, right? So let's first get into the non-verbal part. Engage actively by nodding, smiling, and giving other appropriate facial reactions. This will help your speaker feel supported and heard. Okay, what are a few non-verbal body language uh, things that you can do? One is nodding, another is smiling, another is looking interested. You raise your eyebrows, you are trying to concentrate, you lean in, you sit back, whatever it is, right? Do it in moderation. Ensure that you give those appropriate facial reactions. But if your facial reactions are in the spectrum of rolling your eyes, sighing, hissing, and all those other negative spectrum of things, please try to remember the emotional component and manage them internally. Okay. Second, very, very important, use silence. Let the speaker have the space to think, construct thoughts, articulate those thoughts, right? Resist the temptation to interrupt at any cost. Let them give you the chance to speak. The easiest way to come off as someone who is very easy to work with, someone who is approachable, is when you can listen to people. Because people love talking, okay? They absolutely love talking. Everybody hates to listen. But They also hate people who do not listen. So if you conquer this part, you're going to easily come off as a very, very easy co-worker, someone whom they can actually trust, rely, and work with without much effort, right? So use silence, give your speaker the space to think and construct their thoughts. Don't race to ask them questions at all times. Verbal compliment, very, very important. Provide verbal affirmations like hmms, yas, and yes, like this in moderation. Of course, that is the most important part, to show agreement. Okay. uh, then check to understand. At the end of every conversation, check to understand. Check with the speaker if you've understood something correctly by paraphrasing or summarizing what they've said. Mostly, I would suggest summarizing is much better, because paraphrasing is going to take a lot more time, right? Summarize the speaker's piece to verify if you've understood or if you've comprehended what they've said in the way they intended. Okay. This includes, at the end of every meeting. So just to confirm, I'm just checking in. Um, uh, Correct me if I'm wrong. Is this what you said? So whatever it is, right? So always confirm. So there is no miscommunication. A lot of times you understand one thing and the speaker says something else, which leads to a lot of miscommunication and many more problems later. You can always. It's just like always. Checking if you've left something behind in a cab before closing the door and getting out of it, right? This is just checking if you've left something at the workplace, right? Third, right? Pinpoint what you want to know more about and probe with open-ended questions and no judgment. Okay. Open-ended questions. What are open-ended questions? Can someone tell me what open-ended questions are? Hello. Can someone tell me what open-ended questions are? Kavita, hi. You are the first on my
Yeah.
list. I'm sorry. You're the bait today.
Yeah, basically, when you are looking for some response, an open-ended question when I feel that is what I feel is an open-ended. Like there is no answer for it, or
Okay. You're
or
getting
you need a response from them. I'm also a little
okay. That's fine.
hasty about
Does
it. Yeah,
anybody else want to give it a try?
Ma'am,
open-ended.
I think that,
Yes.
ma'am, I think if we say the tag question, isn't it like this? Do you think, is it right? Means,
Okay. No, those are
we,
close-ended questions. You're
I
pointing towards something. So that isn't where we're trying to get. What else? Anybody else?
Open-ended
Good try
question
then.
can be whenever we want to give an elaborate answer and not just a small yes, no, or something like that.
Okay. Makes sense. What
and
else?
the answers could be multiple and not single choices.
Right. All of you
There
are
many
giving
answers to
me
one
the
question.
open-ended questions are like how, what could be the impact? Like, what do you think about this? How can this be? So this kind of questions are open-ended questions.
okay.
I
Open-ended
mean,
questions
open-ended
are
questions are
hmm,
those that cannot be answered it as yes or no. There should be a
Not a
proper
specific
response.
absolutely.
answer.
That's
Yeah, not a
exactly
specific
what I
answer.
was about to say. As simple as that. Who gave me that answer? Sorry.
This is Harshita.
Harshita, perfect answer. That's literally what I was just about to say, right? Open-ended questions are basically questions that cannot be answered with a simple yes or no. Okay. These questions give your speaker a sense that you've gathered the essence of what they've said. You confirm that you gathered the essence, but you're guiding them into sharing additional information. Okay. For example, okay, the you're saying when some at the workplace you're probably saying you're right, the onboarding procedure could use some updating. What changes would you want to make to the process over the next 6 months? Okay. When someone's presenting an idea to you or to not just to you, to a group, you're saying great, I agree that this has to be done. What action points do you suggest we do over the next quarter to make this happen? Can you tell me more about where your thoughts are leaning towards. What are the next steps? Right? You're asking them for more information, you're probing them for more information, but it's not like, isn't it this? Which isn't it this can be answered with a yes or a no, which is a close-ended question. You're pointing them towards some answer. But in open-ended questions, you are asking for more, you're inviting them to think more and give you their perspective instead of pushing your agenda. You want to know what they do, right? And when you're asking specific probing questions, right, ask direct questions that guide them to provide more readers about more information about what they've shared and narrow down a broad subject, right? For instance, can you tell me more about your current workload? Which of these projects is most time consuming? When your junior is coming to you by saying that, there's a lot of work, we're not able to manage the workload, tell me what exactly is your biggest task, right? You're narrowing down, you're probing them, right? So those are for open-ended and probing questions. So the thing about this is your tone is very, very important. Your body language is very, very important. You're going to show that you understand, that you empathize, that you are not bringing any judgment to the table by the way you act and by the way you speak. And most importantly, these questions must come only after you've reflected on what you have heard, which means you cannot interrupt them. They have to be done with what they're saying. You process it and then you ask these pointed questions. Over a period of time, this will be a natural process that happens subconsciously and will happen much, much faster. But you have to put in that effort. And remember that you have to ask these questions after reflecting on what the person has already said. Okay. All right. What are the different ways to show that you're an active listener in virtual meetings or telephonic meetings when your camera is off? How could you possibly do it? Now,
Use
this is
the
a very
chat
tricky
wisely.
situation, right? A lot of times, we can't keep, like right now, I ask all of you to stay on mute because it's distracting for me when I'm speaking. How do I know if you're even listening? Your camera is on. I can see that Geetanjali is now nodding. Kavita is now, giving me a little smile of agreement, right? What can you do? Firstly, you listen. You actually make notes, and you ask them those probing and open-ended questions in the end. But most of your virtual platforms have reactions, right? You can put your hand up, you can react. The chat section could be used to respond, but again, please be very, very careful with the chat section. You can't constantly keep typing your responses instead of intruding. That counts as intrusion too, right? When you're asked to speak, when you're recognized to speak, when there's a question being posed, you unmute and speak right on time, not just when they call you so many times. A lot of times I have done it. I'm guilty as charged. Meeting will be going on. I'll say my bandwidth is very low. I'll turn my camera off. I'll be on Instagram. Very happily on Instagram. Sometimes I'll be playing PUBG. Right? I do it. I do it. All of us do it. But how do you tell your speaker that you're actively listening? You actually respond quickly. If your response time is quicker, they know that you're actively listening. Right? So if you can't verbally say it, if you can't say it through body language, use reactions on your platforms. Like for instance, there is, I'm sure even in Zoom right now, you will be having your reactions, right? Can everybody give me a thumbs up as a reaction on Zoom? Okay, I see Akila. I see Khushbu. No, Geetanjali. On, like, put up a reaction on Zoom. Yeah, yeah. Not like this. Okay, I see Kavitas. I don't see many other people. I see Rashmi. I see Usha. I see Sai Lakshmi. I see Pratibha, Mansi, Harshita, Goral, Sneha. Okay. Rest of you, please figure out how to react with, emojis, emoticons on Zoom. I also see by the heat. Anyway, that's one of the ways you can communicate virtually when your camera is off. Also, the easiest way is to respond quickly. Actually, be attentive, be quick to respond. Okay, moving on. Technical jargons. Now, um, before we go into this and I tell you what these are, can you quickly tell me one jargon at the workplace that that really like threw you off? You didn't know what it was when you joined, maybe when you were new to work or something. Yes, Geetanjali, you can put it in the chat box.
ASAP.
ASAP. Okay, as soon as possible. Okay. Okay. What else? What else?
BRB, be right back.
Be right back. SOP. SOP is statement of purpose, or what is it? Shruti, what is SOP? FYI, for your information. Okay.
I think it's
PFA,
standard
predefined
operating
attached.
procedure.
Okay, okay, okay. EOD, end of the day.
Yes.
With respect
Standard
to
operating procedures.
standard operating procedures. Okay. TTY, I'll talk to you later. Okay, okay. Okay, so there are two parts to this, guys. First is corporate jargons. I always end up saying corporate jargons. I don't know why. It's like a tongue twister for me. But corporate jargons, okay, that's what we're going to be looking at first, and then we're going to be getting into technical jargons. I'll be giving you more information on where you can find those. First is EOD. EOD is basically end of day. I think all of you know this by now. What it really means is that drop everything you're doing, take care of this first. There's no going to be ifs and buts. That's the real meaning of EOD, right? Hard stop. Hard stop is basically, this meeting has to stop at the agreed upon time or whatever time is mentioned. I need to be somewhere right after, right? What it actually means is, come on, it's a Friday. I have a life. I'm getting out. I'm not gonna do anything else. Or rather, this meeting is too boring or too useless to keep going. I have a hard stop at this time, right? Circle back. Circle back is where I have some questions, concerns, or remarks about this thing that you said earlier, and I would like to address them. You know, address them now. Like, let me circle back. I'd like to circle back to what you said about cutting budgets on hiring. I'd like to circle back to what you said about the fridge not working, whatever. Okay, let's align. Um, align basically means ensuring that everyone is on the same page and there are no misunderstandings or differing interpretations. Before we proceed with the client meeting, let's align on key talking points and objectives internally. Okay, what it really means is that you know what I want you to do. Don't mess this up. That's what it truly means, right? Let's park it. Okay, park it means to set aside that discussion or postpone a decision to a later time. Okay, we have limited time in this meeting, so let's park this issue for now and circle back to this later. Okay. Next is low hanging fruit. Has anyone heard of this one? Okay, Kavita has. What does this mean, Kavita?
Basically, something which you can achieve easily, the low-hanging fruit.
Correct, correct. Let's pick the low hanging fruit first for some quick wins. Let's focus first on these easily achievable goals or tasks before we dive into more complicated action items. What it really means is pay special attention to the context because this one's tricky, okay? It can actually mean two things. One is work smarter, not harder. Or the second is we can say you're only doing the bare minimum and you need to put in more effort into doing this first. And I'm telling you what to do. Right? So contextually it varies between the two things, but technically kind of the same, right? Okay, buy-in. Has anyone heard of buy-in? Buy-ins. Nobody? Okay. Buy-in is basically before you can continue, you have to we have to make sure that everyone agrees with the plan. It's very similar to aligning, but at maybe a much larger scale. We need to get everyone's buy-in before we proceed with this project, right? When you're saying it like that, we don't just want what it really means is that you don't want to put in all the hours of work just to have it shut down later. So you're keeping everybody in the loop. So everyone is on the hot water and not just you, right? You get everybody to buy in and sign off, or give you a G2G or a good to go on it, right? Bandwidth. Oh my God. The most used, misused, overused, abused term in the corporate world. Can someone tell me what bandwidth means? Can somebody tell me what bandwidth means?
Yes.
Not technically,
Resource.
but in in a corporate jargon.
In terms of
type.
time, like if we are
Resources
able
and
to
times
achieve.
Like our
balance.
ability to complete a task.
Absolutely. If
Capacity to do
someone
more tasks.
Uh,
correct,
like availability to take up more work.
availability.
Yeah.
Potential.
Right. So the thing about bandwidth is, if someone asks you if you have the bandwidth to perform a task at work, what they're asking is if you have the time to do so. There's really no reason to substitute the one word for another using plain English rather than corporate jargon, but come across more clearly. That's the only way. Do you have the time to do this? Is like slightly old fashioned these days. It's like, do you have the bandwidth to take this up? Is more corporate like. Okay, so these are uh, you know top 8 to 10 things that I could think of. You guys have any more that you need clarity on, put it on the chat box. We can circle back to it towards the end, or even now. Does anyone have anything you want to know about? Any other jargon, corporate jargon like this? Anything? Yeah, I see some in the uh, chat box. TFB, please write below. FYA. What is FYA? I know FYI is for your information, for your
For your
attention. I don't.
information.
FIA
AA
is
is
for your
also known
action.
as
Action.
MOM, minutes of the meeting. Yeah, we spoke about this in detail in the last session also. But thanks for bringing that up, Peter. What else? Out of office. Yes, OOO is out of office. Everyone sets up their OOO email response, which is automated. So that's it. Sneha asked me to explain circle back again. Absolutely, Sneha. So circle back is basically when you have some questions or concerns or remarks about something somebody said, okay, and you'd like to address them, or you say you want to push it for later. There are two ways to say it. Imagine Kavita just gave an entire presentation on something, okay, say how mosquito bats are great, okay, and then I have an opinion or a question. I say, Kavita, I'd like to circle back to what you said about killing mosquitoes in an eco-friendly way, but do you really think using electric bats is eco-friendly, right? That's how you put it. That's how you use circle back to redirect concerns about something that's already been told. Or you can also use it in place of park it, right? You could say, I think we're now talking about this for a long time, and we have other action items to cover. So let's circle back to this later. Let's park it for now, or let's circle back to this later, can be used interchange. Yeah. Am I clear, Sneha? Did you understand? Got it. Okay. So Narita says deep dive. Yes, deep dive is just a very, very fancy term that people use to say that, I'm probably just going to go to Chat GPT and do a deep dive on it. But, it's basically, it's literally what it means, right? To gather more information about it in an elaborate format. That is deep dive. Uh, Pratibha has brought something up called as blue sky thinking to find creative solutions or innovative ideas. Oh, this is very new to me as well, Pratibha. Thanks for sharing it. Does anyone has any other questions or anything else that you want to know about? Anything? Anybody? Anyone? No? Is everything clear? Yes, Vaidehi.
I mean, I have written one word, but I mean, state of art results itself. Is that a jargon? I mean, that does it come into that or
State of the art again is just an adjective people use, right? They just use it. It's just thrown around a lot, but it only means that it's just to beef up what you're already trying to say. If I say this is a bottle that's designed very meticulously, and I say this is a bottle with state of the art design, it's the same thing. It's just a fancier way to say that there's a lot of effort that's gone into it. Yeah.
okay. Yeah. Got that.
Yes. Anybody else? Any other questions? No? Yeah, shall we move on? All righty. Oh God, I'm so sorry. I think reshare my presentation. Are you guys able to see my screen? Let me know when you can see my screen. Can you see it now? Yeah? Okay. All right.
Yeah.
Okay. We spoke about everything. We covered everything. Yeah. Okay. So, these are all corporate jargons, right? Can you all tell me about some technical jargons that are very specific to the work that you do? Okay. For instance, I used to work in the advertising. I still do a bit of advertising, but the script that you write for ads, okay, is called as copy. That's the technical term that I that we as advertisers use at work to refer to the script that we write. Okay. And or rather, when you're looking at YouTube videos, right, you have these text bumpers that pop in, right? Those are technically called as supers. Okay, those big text things that you see in an ad, those are called as supers. So these are technical terms that are industry and job specific. Can you all share something like that that are specific to your job or your industry? Come on, quickly, you guys. We're short on time.
Can we say SLA or something like that? Is one word we used to.
Sorry, who's speaking? Yes, Vaidehi. Yeah. What is your line of work?
SLAs? So my line of work is like consultant. I mean tax consultant. So
Okay.
I mean my work is based on global taxation norms like PATCA, CRS, and no tax. Okay. So we used to listen to kind of. I don't remember one for now because it's been long time. SLA is one.
Okay, what
jargon
is
that
it?
was new to me. That SLA. So service level agreements and
Service level
this
agreements.
was some level of agreements with the client that we need to adhere. Like we will be completing this customer in this much time. That is come. So we'll be so that's
Service level
some type of
agreements.
agreement.
I think in other areas of work, it's also called as scope of work. I mean, it might be slightly different for other areas of work or domains, but scope of work basically is again a service level agreement between you and the client for what your company or you essentially have to do for them and what comes under their retainer package. Retainer is again another jargon. Okay, anybody else?
SOW, statement of work.
Statement of work. Okay, SOW, where you maintain whatever you have done on an everyday basis. Like I used to maintain my SOW in an Excel sheet or a Google sheet rather. I would maintain on an everyday basis whatever tasks I do. Now there are better tools to do it, but yeah, that's a great job. What else? That's industry domain specific.
ETA, estimated time of arrival.
Okay. That's again more of a corporate jargon. I'm looking at more technical ones that are specific to your line of work.
Yes, when we
of
found
work
any issues in the work, just when we raise the tickets, so we will ask the ETA of the persons.
Okay, then troubleshooting might also be one
it's
jargon, right?
regarding to
In your
troubleshooting.
line of work,
Yes, in the
troubleshooting might be a
technical
jargon. What
aspect,
can
it
you
is.
tell me what troubleshooting is?
Troubleshooting means when we raise the tickets to find out what is the solution to this problem, what is the technical
Finding
glitch.
solutions.
Yeah.
Understanding the problem is basically troubleshooting, and then you get to a stage where you find. Yes,
Yes.
Kavita.
Yeah, there is like HLD,
Voice is not clear. Your voice is not clear.
SRS.
Your voice is breaking up.
Out of box thinking, Aarti.
Now
Yes, Harshita.
Hello.
Yes, Harshita.
Yes, I'm not sure, but maybe it is bug or cookies.
Yeah. Go ahead and tell us what it is.
Bug means a kind of error while performing any task, and cookies is something that a small files which comes around when we access some web address. It has some I mean the tracking of whatever site I have visited, user
Right.
information, etc.
Absolutely. Okay. That's
Can
a
you hear
great
me
value
now?
add. Thanks. Yes, Kavita.
Yeah, it's HLD, LLD, SRS.
Okay.
These are the abbreviations which are used by developers.
Okay.
Basically, high-level design, low-level design, system requirement study. These are done before you start a development of a project. So these are the
Okay.
jargons which are get me the HLD, get me the LLD, like that. We usually ask the
High
programmer
level
or
D is for
des-
what?
design.
Design.
High
High
level
level
design,
design,
low
low
level
level
design.
design.
Yeah,
Okay.
all the
Okay.
developers will be
And
able to relate in
what is
this
your line
group.
of work? Sorry.
Yeah, I am actually a project lead,
Okay.
technical lead.
So
Yeah,
IT. Okay.
IT. Yes,
Awesome.
domain is
Okay.
IT. Yeah.
Okay. Anybody else?
It can be
SPOC,
either a
POCs.
back-end developer,
Back end. Okay. Okay. Yeah.
front-end
Spock.
developer, or a
Someone.
full stack, depending on the
Okay.
type of work the developer is doing.
Okay. Spock again is a corporate. I think will come more under the corporate side and not the technical side. Spock or
POC.
POC is basically point of contact or single point of contact when you are in the
No,
consultant
no. In
or a
like
service
in technical terms, POC is like proof of concept.
proof. Oh, I'm so sorry. That's new to me. I'm very sorry. Yes. Can you please go on
Proof
and
of
tell me more?
concept. Yeah, so like if you have something and like you can showcase a model, you can like try to implement a small model. If not possible, the complete feature, then we say like this is the proof of concept. POC.
Okay. That's awesome. That's new to me. I'm so sorry. I did not
So it's
actively
like
listen.
quite technical. Like in IT only, we use this term POC.
Absolutely. Again, see, I taught you active listening and I wasn't actively listening. I'm very sorry. I'm quite short on time, so I'm a little stressed. Anyway, you guys, what you can do is like I just found this for those of you who still do not have that much experience as a restarter, you can probably check out this link. This has like top 100 latest technological jargons for you to look at in case you're interested in that. Okay, moving on. Impactful presentations. How many of you all have had to present, like make an actual slide deck and present it at work? Come on, use your reactions, put your hand up or say something. Okay, Harshita has, Geeta has, Lokeshwari. Okay. Vaidehi also. Okay. Harshita, can you tell me what your biggest challenge was when it came to presenting, be it creating the presentation or presenting it? What was your biggest challenge?
To make someone understand I mean, that presentation says. Actually, whatever in my mind, I just explain everything, whatever in my perspective. But sometimes I feel that to whom I am presenting the presentation, they might not get whatever that presentation means. I mean, maybe they are not active listeners. That is why they come into that point that
Could be. It couldn't.
yeah.
I mean, it couldn't all be on you either. So that's okay. Anyway, thank you so much. Does anyone have any other concern that you fought? Yeah, Neha. Yes, Neha.
Yeah, so the presentation should be like crisp and precise. Like it should
No.
contain all.
What was your biggest challenge while trying to present?
Uh, so like so this was like sometimes it happens like for a story you couldn't find like how can you fit your thought in like in few lines.
Got it. Consolidation. Oh, got it. Okay, yes, Lokeshwari, come on, very quickly. Tell me what your biggest concern is.
Presenting
Or you
in
can put it
time.
on the chat box also, everyone
Yes.
else who's waiting. Yeah.
So it's like presenting in time. I would have before I had presented
Correct.
feature where I worked for weeks or months and I had to present it in half hour or so. So that's a challenge.
Understood. Okay. All right. Thank you for sharing that. Let's look at hopefully fixing it by the end of this particular section of the session. See, the thing is, senior executives are one of the toughest crowds you'll face as a presenter. They're incredibly impatient because their schedules are jam packed and they have to make a lot of high stake decisions, often with very little time to weigh options. So they won't sit still for a long presentation with a big reveal in the end. Okay, they'll just interrupt you before you finish. It is up to you. It can be very frustrating. You probably have a lot to say to them, and this might be your only shot to say it. But what do you do then? How do you go about with a situation like that? I'm so sorry, Neha. I see that you put your hand up, but I will circle back to this later. Okay. Anyway, there are 4 essential steps that you must look at when you're presenting to leadership. First, research. Okay, research your content, get your facts right. Bridging the gap of knowledge will give you an instant boost in confidence. You need to know what you're talking about first. That will help you articulate better. Okay, second, most important thing that people miss, research your audience. Right, it's always easy to please someone you know instead of playing a guessing game on what they might like. You first understand when someone gives you a brief that you have to present somewhere, probe, ask them, who are these people? What am I doing? What is the end result of this presentation? What am I trying to convince them for? Get your information correctly before you begin even thinking about preparing for the presentation. That accounts for your research. Second, most important part, articulation. Okay, an audience can't listen to your presentation and read detailed text heavy slides at the same time. Now imagine I have all of what I'm talking. Okay, every single word I am talking is on the slide. Are you going to be listening to me? Are you going to be reading it? Are you going to be confused? You're going to try to do both and you're going to be confused, right? Remember that when you're trying to articulate your thoughts, especially in a slide deck, it has to be in a way where it's not text heavy, but not missing key parts of your message anyway. Right? Ensure that your slides pass something called as a glance test. Okay, people should be able to comprehend whatever is there on a slide within 3 seconds. If I gave you 3 seconds to look at this slide, you'll be able to understand there are four key points to presenting to a leadership, and there are these 4 points. Right? Isn't it clear to you? That's all there is to it. Whatever you have to say need not be on your slide. Your slide is just for visual stimulation. In case your audience wanders off, when they come back to this world, they still can make sense of what you're saying. Right? If you look at any other slide of whatever I've presented so far, right? You'd be able to look at it and understand it within 3 seconds. Even when you're not listening to me, you'd be able to look at it and make sense of what I'm saying. Yes or no? That is how you make a presentation. There are not too many elements. See, it's very clean. There's a lot of negative space. There's a lot of white space. But when you look at it, it is not so clouded. It's not so cluttered that it's fighting for your attention from what I'm saying versus what is on the slide. Right? That is how your presentation has to be. Okay. One thing. Sorry. Yeah, this is where we were. Now, the thing about making effective presentations is that making them visually, firstly, there are 2 elements, verbal elements and visual elements over here, right? Firstly, when you're talking about the actual content of your presentation, begin by discussing an agenda for the presentation, then get into each section in detail. The summary you give right when you're explaining the agenda should be your entire presentation in short. Like I said, when you're presenting to senior stakeholders, they have zero time. No one's that busy, yes, but they at least pretend to be busy. They have too many things, too many meetings to be on. When it's your only shot to present, when it's your only shot to sort of get to them, I know you would have put in a lot of effort into a presentation or how you design it, how it looks. You must have worked so hard on making it look very beautiful and all of that. But none of it is going to be of use if they don't get to see it, right? So always follow a top-down approach. You're getting to the specifics of one after the other, but before you begin, you're going to have an agenda slide, just like how for instance, right, this was my agenda slide. When I started this presentation, I told you we're going to discuss 3 key things. I gave you what it is. A lot of times what happens is when I put an agenda slide that looks like this, or a lot more detailed also, when I'm trying to present to senior leadership, a lot of times they'll assume what is there in the first 3 slides. They'll ask me to go straight to the 5th. An agenda slide will help them do that, will help you will help you do that as well, right? So it will really give some direction to your audience on what they're listening to. So in case they have to disassociate, in case they have to skip to some part, they know where to skip to. They're not mindlessly listening to you thinking when you're going to stop, right? This will help them actively listen as well. Now, moving on to where we were, right? Keep your slides clean, keep them simple, have a logical flow to it. Okay. If you're having too many elements, even though they're beautiful, if they're going to fight for attention with one another, and B, with what you're saying, it's not going to be of any use to you. Keep your slides clean, keep your slides easy to understand. Whatever you have to say need not be on the slide. You should, when you're presenting, please don't read off of a slide. You have separate notes. When you're, whatever you have to say need not be on the slide. Like for instance, right now, whatever I'm talking is not on the slide. It's on my speaker notes. I'm reading off of my speaker notes section from Google Slides. I don't know, wait, let me reshare and show you how this looks. Google Slides is actually very, very useful that way. I'm sharing both my speaker notes as well as my, do you see a little box? If I don't share it, I had this open the entire session, okay, but you didn't see it because I didn't share it. When you're presenting in person, this might not be possible. You might have to have a separate, section for whatever it is that you have to say. But the thing is, I have my separate notes section over here. You don't have to, show whatever you have to speak on the slide. You can just speak about it. That is what makes it more engaging. That is what makes your audience actually listen to what you're saying. If I had everything I'm talking up on the slide, you won't listen to me. You'll just read it. You will selectively listen. You will read it. You will see what's important. You'll write it down. There will be no value for me as a trainer here, right? So you have to create your own value. Don't put everything on a slide. Keep it very clean. Have a top down. Only the most overarching subjects, the most overarching parts of your presentation go on the slide. Keep it very, very, very simple. A lot of times you guys are saying that it's very hard for me to articulate. I think Lokeshwari said that she has a lot to say, but putting it in the slide is very hard. Now, keep it very, again, use the top-down approach. If you're talking about certain things, just put the headings or the topics. Make it more visually engaging. You can use more icons. You can use more, random things like this. See, for instance, for this particular session, the reason why I use slides like this, where there are only words and no other visual element, specifically is because I want you to pay 100% attention. This is an instructional session. But when I'm presenting an idea, okay, let me show you maybe a very quick example. Are you still able to see my screen? Yes. Let me show you something I made for a client. Okay. Okay, there's not much on this particular one, but this is something I made for a CEO or a CTO of Lenovo. Okay. He had to present his highlights to his particular team. It's a very, And you see, there are a lot more visual elements than words. There are very few words. There's a lot of visual elements. That's because it's not an instructional session. It's more of a refresher, right? It's against this, if I have to show you something else, which is unfortunately not here. Mm, mm, mm. Let me know if you're still seeing my screen. Are you still able to see my screen?
Yes.
You're seeing it? Yes?
Yes,
Okay.
Santi.
Okay. Right. Look at this. Rather, let me show you a different one that looks more beautiful. Right. This is something I made for a brand launch. Okay. Are you still able to see my screen?
Yeah.
In full screen? Yes. Okay, this is a social media strategy I made. Look at all the visual elements. First, I began with the agenda. Then I go into each particular thing. There are a lot of visual elements to this, right? The little icons here are talking about what I'm going to, suggest to my this thing.
Even the
And there are
colors matter.
colors. Yes, the colors are in line with the brand's colors. So
Brand.
this is the brand's logo. These are the colors that the brand has, which is why these colors and these, that wheat element is also there. That little thing that you see. If you notice, it has a lot more visual elements than the this is a mix of visual as well as textual elements because we're trying to explain, we're pitching to a client on how it has to get better, right? There are so many more visual elements, and they're put in a way where it's enticing for them to look at. We're trying to tell a story here and tell how it's actually going to look, the look and feel of the product and everything. So what I'm trying to say is depending upon how your this is the one. Hopefully, I am right. Yes. Are you still able to see my screen? Am I back on the presentation? Yeah? You
Yes.
guys are able to see my screen? Yeah. What I'm trying to say is the way you put things together, even in the presentation that I showed you just now of Avino Baby, within 30 seconds, you were able to at least get an idea of what the slide is about, if not read it completely, right? Unfortunately, that's not the best example. I wouldn't personally do it that way with so much text on there because I personally feel like I should be the one doing the talking, not my presentation. That was something my team did. Although I was not, sometimes you just have to agree with what your team does and your boss says. But my point being, I would ideally suggest if you are comfortable with communicating things and bringing it, right, have your notes with yourself. Don't put it up on the slide and read it out. You are not a read out loud, uh, you know, there are now tools for that. There are tools that can read documents. You don't have to do it. So if you're not doing that, please put as less text as possible and try to present. That's the whole point. You're adding that human element. It's your idea. You gave birth to it. It's going to be very easy once you get that confidence, but until then it's going to be very hard. I won't lie. But see what works for you. For me, what works is having speaker notes. For me, what works is actually rehearsing before I get there, right? Now, speaking about prepare, right? I really, really want you to, before you go into a presentation, run your talk and your slides by a colleague or somebody you trust who will serve as an honest coach. Go through it with somebody. You have fresh pair of eyes to look at it. It can't just be you at all times. Unfortunately, I have to do it, but you don't have to. When you're working in a corporate, that is the biggest boom because you have a team. You don't, it's not just all on you. So use that. Try to find someone who's had success getting ideas adopted at the executive level. Ask for pointed feedback. Is your message coming through clearly and quickly as you've intended it? Is your message do your summary slides boil everything down to skimmable key insights or not? Are you missing anything? Is your audience likely to expect something more than what you're already saying. One thing, always do a drive. Most importantly, time your presentation. Check if you're doing it right. You can't just make the deck very beautifully, go there and stumble. It's not going to. Think about what you're going to say in each slide. Prepare. For me, the more I repeat, the more I prepare, the easier it is for me. But I can never do this from off of my head. I need something to look at. Every class I take, I have speaker notes on. It's not, for instance, a cohort that I take is now on cohort number 65 or something. Okay, I've practically done that session 65 times. I still prefer having my speaker notes on. There's no shame in it. It helps me convey what I want to convey to the fullest extent without missing any points. There's no shame in having reference points. There's no shame in having flashcards, whether they are in the form of handwritten notes, whether they are in the form of notes on your phone, whether it's an entirely different presentation you can just swing by, and other stuff. There was this one time where I had to present in person. Okay, I'm so used to doing these Zoom classes that I can just have my speaker notes on, and the people who are attending the session only see my speaker notes. But when I had to go and take an in-person class, I couldn't do that because the screen projects whatever is on your screen. I can't choose to not project my speaker notes. So what I did was I had my speaker notes in a separate tablet. I was going through it like this, and I was still speaking. I can't speak without speaker notes. If you are like me, it's completely all right. As long as you're conveying what you want to convey, it's being received the way you intend, anything works. Always time yourself. Rehearse as many times as possible. The more you rehearse, the more confidence you get. You're gonna get jitters every time. Trust me. Before walking into the session, Mary fat rahi thi. I'm so sorry about my language, but I was very scared. This is the first time I'm doing this session. I was scared. That's a good thing. It makes you more responsible for what you're doing. It's going to happen. But the more you rehearse, the more you believe in your cause, it's going to work out at the end. Last thing, the most important part of the puzzle, regardless of what you do in your research, in your articulation, in your preparation, what comes through when you're presenting is what actually matters, right? Dress for the occasion. Don't, whether you like it or not, at least for me, this is very true. I feel very confident if I dress up. If I look presentable, it gives me that added tinge of confidence. Find what gives you that confidence, do it. But whether you like it or not, please be presentable. Please dress up, according to the occasion, according to the dress code in your office culture or whatever that is. Always reach before time. Find a calming ritual. For me, my calming ritual is, boiling hot water and keeping for my class. That's my calming ritual. Sometimes I just my calming ritual is also anxiety, running around trying to make it on time, trying to squeeze in my breakfast into my system, physically stuffing it in my face, right? Whatever it is. Find your calming ritual. That will definitely help. Have your notes offline and ready. A lot of times I'm so confident and I'm prepared and I go and there's no network in the place. I can't access my presentation and I'm gone. Although I've done it 100 times over, it brings my confidence level to zero. So, hard lesson learned. Always have your notes offline or as a hard copy, whichever works for you. People will remember the first and the last things you say in your presentation. Due to the primacy recency effect, that's what sticks. You remember the first thing I say, you remember the last thing I say. Inexperienced speakers often remember to have a strong introduction. They start very well, but they don't know how to end. They fizzle out by the time they get to the end. They are either physically tired or mentally tired, right? Especially if they have too much content and they need to rush through it to finish on time, right? Even then, ensure that you leave enough time for your last final punch. Don't make the same mistake. Make sure that your presentation finishes on the strong note with clear action points for whoever is, whoever the presentation is being presented to. They are very clear on what you said. You always have a quick summary of whatever you said and the action points in the end. That will make your presentation very impactful. And hopefully it made mine too. That brings us to the end of this session. Thank you so very much for joining in. Again, I'm going to be dropping a few links on the chat box. One is for my job search tracker, another is for my salary negotiation session, and of course, I'm going to be dropping my LinkedIn and my Instagram links. I hope you enjoyed this session. I hope this really does help you. If you have any questions about this particular session, I won't be able to take it right now because I'm already over 5 minutes and I have a doctor's appointment to get to. Please join in 5 minutes early for the next session, which is interview readiness, and that's also fortunately or unfortunately with me. Join in 5 or 10 minutes early, and I'll definitely, respond to your queries. I'm very, very terribly sorry that I cannot stay any longer. I hope you enjoyed the session. Did you all enjoy the session? I have time for that.
Yes,
Did
very.
you? Did you
Yes.
like the session? Was it useful to you?
Yes, Aarti. Yep.
Yes.
Yes, Aarti.
Okay, great. Thank you so much, you guys. Have a great, great, great Monday ahead. Although that sounds like an oxymoron for me right now. Okay.
Yeah,
I'll see you
thank you
soon
so
next
much.
Monday.
Thank you
Bye.
for your energetic session today. Thank you. Thank you.
Thanks, Alekia. It's new for you also. I hope you learned something too.
Yes. Thank you. Thanks a lot.
Have a good time.
And ladies, how's the session?
It was nice. It was good. Nice.
Yeah. I have posted all the links in WhatsApp group also. Okay, what already Aarti has shared in that. Okay. Please go through that. And your next session would be on Wednesday. Wednesday, it's a speed mentoring. Okay, please join Wednesday at 11 a.m.
Sure.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. Have a great day. We'll wrap up for the day today. Bye-bye.